Antigua, Bahamas, a cluster of 700 tropical islands just 50 miles off the coast of Florida. They call it a paradise, which has become an exotic and luxurious playground. And for the next 2 days, it plays host to this second World Superstars Championship. This is where 13 top international sportsmen have come, having won the right to challenge America's Bob Seagren for that title he won 12 months ago in Georgia, World Superstar. Well, we've got here Keith Fielding from Great Britain, the European Superstar champion, that's Tees Kreuzer. Among the Americans, there's that controversial but brilliant high jumper, Dwight Stones, and there's a very exciting New Zealand Rugby All Black here as well. The prize money, well, that is absolutely staggering. There are 10 events, 10 points to be won in each event at the rate of $300 a point. And just in case that's not enough for them, there's an eventual bonus to the winner, the World Superstar, of $25,000. Keith Fielding, the rugby league player who is Britain's most successful superstar ever. Tees Kreuzer, the Dutch hockey player who just beat Fielding for the European title. Wayne Grimditch, the water skier who holds the United States Superstar title. Grant Batty, the Rugby All Black and New Zealand Superstar champion. And Graham Eadie, Rugby League professional, the Australian champion. Brian Budd from football, who won Superstars in Canada. Ben Davidson, a giant of a man from American pro football. And Dave Casper, another big American in his second World Superstars. Jean-Paul Coche from France, World, Olympic and European judo medalist. Jochen Mass, Germany's #1 Grand Prix driver and #1 superstar. Greg Pruitt, our third American footballer, the fastest in the game. Dwight Stones, United States, multi-world record breaker at high jump. And Bob Seagren, the superstar champion of the world.
Those 13 superstars have to choose 7 out of the 10 events. 10 of them have opted to go in the first event, which is the swimming. There are 2 heats of 5, and the heats are over 2 lengths of the pool, making 50 yards, but the final is 4 lengths of 100 yards. It's about 75 degrees in the shade already, and it looks as though it's going to get hotter.
Batty far left, then Seagren, Graham Eadie, Brian Budd and Dave Casper. And Brian Budd of Canada in lane 4, already swimming stroke for stroke with Bob Seagren. In fact, he's going to touch first, and that's a very impressive tumble turn, and gets away a little better. So could this be the first upset for Seagren in the defence of his title? Seagren on the far side, nearer to us in lane 4, Brian Budd of Canada, who gets there first, with Dave Casper third. Good swim by the Canadian. Some very good-looking crawl amongst the Heat 1, and this man has impressed everybody. So Brian Budd's certain to go through. And it's Wayne Grimditch, yes, already breaking clear, and swimming just ahead of Jochen Mass. On this side, Dwight Stones swimming quite well. He does a tumble turn, but Wayne Grimditch already out ahead. And on his left is Jochen Mass. The young American breaking clear now by about 1.5 yards, and it'll be Dwight Stones fighting out third place with Tees Kreuzer. Undoubtedly Wayne Grimditch, and in second place Jochen Mass. Dwight Stones looked as though he was third. So this man will have to match the Canadian Brian Budd. And it's now about 80 degrees in the shade, and endurance will obviously play a factor in this final swim, which is over 4 lengths of the pool.
Dave Casper.
Dave Casper in lane 1.
In lane number 2, Wayne Grimditch.
Winner of Heat 2.
In lane number 3, Brian Budd.
Who suddenly becomes favourite, having beaten Bobby Seagren in his heat.
In lane number 4, Bob Seagren.
So the 2 key men drawn together.
And in lane number 5, Jochen Mass.
Suddenly finds world superstars. The opposition is very tough indeed.
Take your mark.
All get away first time. Casper in lane 1, who put out Dwight Stones with a faster time. Then Wayne Grinditch. Brian Budd, the Canadian soccer player, who leads at the moment and has a very efficient turn. And Bob Seagren in lane 4. Jochen Mass on the far left of picture. And this is quite a substantial lead. The Canadian soccer player is swimming quite magnificently, and Bob Seagren has a battle with Wayne Grinditch. Now, has he gone off too fast? Absolutely unknown, but the Canadian commentators were saying, look out for him, he's a tremendous all-rounder. Looks good at the moment. That's a pretty impressive lead. Wayne Grinditch is now clearly in second place, and Bob Seagren, the reigning world champion, struggling for points. Brian Budd gets there first. Wayne Grinditch will be second, and Bob Seagren has to settle for third place. Over on the far side, Dave Casper gets points from Jochen Mass. And the first $3,000 goes to the Canadian soccer player, Brian Budd. In second place, Wayne Grinditch gets the 7 points. Bob Seagren gets 4. Dave Casper 2. Jochen Mass 1.
So on to event 2, and one that's familiar to the Europeans but a complete stranger to the Americans, the slalom football run, and it's Jean-Paul Coche of France, the first competitor. 3 attempts against the clock, dribbling through the slalom posts. Jean-Paul Coche, and that's the first one in. Goalkeeper Shep Messing from Oakland Stompers in the North American League. The Americans say they're going to have trouble with this. Be interesting to see if they can do anything with it. Coche, 1 goal. And Messing out very quickly to narrow the angle. Good save. Looks a very good goalkeeper indeed. Clock ticking away, remember, all the time. And yes, that's in. 2 goals, and the time keeps going till he gets back at 41.8 seconds. 2 goals, 41.8 against Shep Messing from the North American League. The ball ready for the start of Keith Fielding's bid in World Superstars. Event which he must surely do well in. But he had a little bit of a disaster in the European final in this when he was only 3rd. Good goal. Good control with the ball. Oh, and he was a little too careful, I think, with that one. Went for position and Messing saved it. 1 out of 2. Place it or hammer it? Oh, he did a combination, and how quick is he going to be? He's quicker than Coche. 2 in 39.32 seconds, the best so far. My goodness, it's going to take some to put 3 goals past this goalkeeper. He really is putting up some very good performances indeed in the heat. Kreuzer, Thies Kreuzer, who won this in the European final and beat Keith Fielding. 3rd man on the slalom run. Number 1. He's a great all-round competitor with a great run he's had in the European competition. And saved. If you remember, had 2. Great rivals, Kreuzer and Fielding, trying to prove a point out here in World Superstars. Oh, and that's saved as well. So Kreuzer only 1 goal, and he's slower, he's faster than Fielding, 38.59, but only 1 goal. Fielding had 2. Now the next 4 or 5, Wayne Grinditch was the best of them, but he only got 1 goal in 40 seconds, so it's still Keith Fielding at the top, 2 goals, 39.32, and only this man to beat him. Grant Batty, the last of the 9 taking part, and Fielding watching. He's ahead at the moment. Only Batty can take it away from him. What a thing it would be if Fielding could start his World Superstar bid with a victory, 10 points and $3,000. That's it, 1 for Batty. And he's pretty quick across the ground as well, this fiery All Black. Seen so much of him in this country. Oh, it's saved. Now, he needs 1 goal, and he's got to beat 39.32 to Rob Fielding. and he hasn't been that quick at the moment. If he gets this, it's on the clock. Oh, and it's saved, and Fielding knows it. He's there, he's delighted with that. Fielding is home. It doesn't matter what Batty does on the clock. It's only points for him, but Fielding has got it. And Kreuzer the first to congratulate him, the great rivals. And Keith Fielding there, off the mark in World Superstars, 10 points from Koch, from Kreuzer, from Grimditch, from Batty, but what a start for the Englishman. And that's how it's going at the moment, the two event winners at the top, Budd and Fielding. Grimditch a point behind, and the big event for Fielding coming up next on the track.
Now for this eagerly anticipated 100-yard dash. It should be very quick. It's an asphalt track. They'll use blocks, but they won't use spikes. There are two heats of 4 runners. In the first heat, little Grant Batty, the all-black wing, he runs against Brian Budd, the Canadian soccer star who's already proved his fitness by winning the swimming. It's in the second heat that all our attention will be riveted on, because that's where Keith Fielding goes. Keith Fielding has to run against Bobby Seagren, winner of last year's World Superstars Championships, and Greg Pruitt, a man who's reputed to have run the 100 yards in 9.4, the fastest man in American football. And he looks pretty awesome when you see him running. So that's the lineup for Heat 2, and it should be a cracking race.
Runners to your blocks.
So, Koch Lane 1, Graham Eady, Grant Batty, Brian Budd. Winner of each heat, with the next 3 fastest runners go through the final. Oh, and they got away very quickly. Grant Batty did at least, and got a yard on them on the gun. But now the Canadian soccer player is coming through to win it, and Brian Budd's going to have another startling win. And over on the far side, Jean-Paul Koch did so well to beat Grant Batty. I'd made Grant Batty favourite, but he was beaten by a judo player, and certainly beaten by this soccer player. Now that looks as though Brian Budd can get points from the 100 yards. Time for the first heat was 10.6. And another bad start. It was Bob Seagren that got away quickly, and Keith Fielding's had a marvellous start. Greg Pruitt can't make up that gap. Keith Fielding going magnificently, and Pruitt has to settle for second. They're yards clear of the rest, but what a good win for Keith Fielding. And I wonder whether Greg Pruitt was holding anything back. Certainly Keith Fielding must have had his confidence boosted by that run. A splendid run, 10.05. And Pruitt about 3 yards back.
Well, the final of that 100 yards, which promises to be the best we've ever seen in Superstars, to come just a little later on. Still to come, the big test of the obstacle course, the half mile, the cycling, the weightlifting, the tennis, and the gymnastics. We've now moved down onto the lakeside of the Emerald Golf Course for our very next event, which is the rowing. It's over a course of 100 yards. They're in aluminium boats, and the competitors have been drawn in pairs.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the next heat, rowing in lane number 1, the blue lane, from the United States, Dave Casper.
Big Dave didn't get any points out of this in World Superstars last year.
And in lane number 2, the red lane, from the United States, Ben Davidson.
I think he's had a pretty interesting 37 years, don't you? So there they are, the two big men and Superstars drawn together. Ready. And it's Casper nearest us with the blue cap. Davidson over on the far side in this beautiful setting. And there's tremendous power there already. Look at the long stroke, both men using those arms well. It's about 33, 34 stone between them. And it's Casper inching up. He's improved since World Superstars because he got a second place in the US final in this. But look at Ben Davidson. He's practically pulling the boat out of the water. Now that'll lose him a little bit of time because he really should try to keep it planing. And Casper a little bit one-armed, but he's still straight and going well. And it's Casper inching ahead as he comes up towards the line now. And Dave Casper's going to beat Ben Davidson, and he goes through there and takes it. Casper wins. And what's his time? 40.5, and that's the fastest so far. Brian Budd, well, he's at it again. He won his heat over Jean-Paul Koch, and very fast indeed, 38.96, incredible time. And then Dwight Stones, shock win over Jochen Mass, but Stones not quite quick, 43.47. And that takes us into the last heat before the finals.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the final heat, rowing in lane number 1, the blue lane, the 1978 U.S. Superstars champion, Wayne Grimditch.
22 years old Wayne Grimditch, 3 times water ski champion of the world.
And in lane number 2, the red lane from Great Britain, the 1977 runner-up in the European Superstars, Keith Fielding.
So, Fielding set, that determined, familiar look on his face. Fielding on the far side. Fielding, as we've heard, has already forecast that Grimditch is going to be a very strong competitor in this competition. And look at that, really racking his body as he pulls this aluminium boat up the water. Really going well. Fielding won, of course, the canoes when he won the European heat in Vichy, but didn't do so well in the European final. And there's tremendous support coming out from the lakeside, and it's for Wayne Grimditch, I think. They're really cheering him on. And in fact, it's the family. That's mother, father, sister, all there looking at the watch because the finalists depend on the clock. And Grimditch going well, and he's got this. He's going to beat Keith Fielding, but is he quick enough? Pulls in there on the line, and the clock says 41.51, and he won't make the final. And he looks absolutely shattered. He won't make the final with that time of 41.51. Neither will Fielding. In fact, Grimditch was a little slower than Ben Davidson. Grimditch will be 4th overall. Fielding won't get a point at all. So we come to the final row-off for the points.
Ladies and gentlemen, in the finals of the rowing competition, rowing in lane number 1, the blue lane from Canada, the 1977 Canadian Superstars champion, Brian Budd.
Likeable 25-year-old who plays for Caribous of Colorado in the North American League.
And in lane number 2, the red lane from the United States and the Oakland Raiders, Dave Casper.
American pro footballer, second in the US finals in this. And away they go. Casper on the far side, Brian Budd this side. Is it going to be the strength of Casper, who's holding a little, I think, in reserve there, or this tearaway style of Brian Budd, who says, I don't really know how to do these events, and is shocking everybody at the moment. Budd with a slightly longer stroke in the white pants, nearest us. Casper over on that far side, and Budd looking a little anxious as he looks across to see where Casper is, going just a little offline. And Casper there, long stroke, look at this, he's worked this out beautifully and pulling ahead, and Budd is cracked. Casper has got him, and it's Dave Casper who's coming in to take this after not getting a point last year and wins the rowing from Brian Budd. On the last few yards, Casper had it and won very well indeed. So the result of the rowing will be 10 points and a win for Dave Casper. 2nd, Brian Budd. 3rd, Davidson. 4th, Grimditch. 5th, Batty. 3 footballers, 1, 2 and 3.
A clear lead for Brian Budd from Dave Casper. Keith Fielding in 4th place, and the reigning world champion in trouble back in 6th place.
Our next event is the gymnasium tests, and as you will see from this piece of apparatus, we revert back to chins rather than dips. We had this in World Superstars last year. The number of times each superstar can chin himself on this bar and then return to full arm extension. There's another change too. It's the number of chins that each man can do, which is added to the number of squat thrusts that gives him his total score.
Brian Budd, 6 feet 1, 13 stones, an all-Canadian soccer player, now playing in the American League. And starting very confidently.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Remember, Bob Seagren did 28 last year. Shale Isaacson did 33.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
He's going well.
24, 25, 26, 27, 28.
Well, he's matched Seagren of last year,
30,
and there's no slowing down.
32, 33, 34, 35,
And he's beaten Isaacson, and this is astonishing.
39, 40.
He's still within his minute, and he's suggesting that he can do a few more.
43, 44, 45, keep going, 46,
The whistle goes, and Brian Budd does 46 chins. No wonder he drops. He may be fooling about, but that is a phenomenal score. And that must sink Bob Seagren's chances. He really can't believe it. 46. I think everybody that watched that was astonished. Jean-Paul Coche, this very muscular Frenchman, has won gymnastics before in European Superstars, but if you remember, he was beaten at dips by the Spanish canoeist Menendez. And already, signs of fatigue. Now, this is a biceps and triceps exercise, and Jean-Paul Coche has probably got bigger biceps than anyone here. But it's about muscular endurance, not just raw strength.
21, 22, 23.
This is where muscles begin to cramp and knot.
10 seconds.
And Jean-Paul Coche is finished. Trying within his minute. He'll get one more added to his score and finish on 25. Brian Budd, ever the comedian as he can afford to be. Jochen Mass wearing gloves, which are optional.
2, 3.
The others using a resin pad to dust them, and he's got a little bit out of sync with himself. The swing can help.
7, 8, 9, 10.
Jochen confessing that he's not really as fit as he was when he was in European Superstars.
12, 13, 14,
Remember, it's the score
15,
from this exercise that's added to the number of squat thrusts. So it's an overall score we're looking for in the gymnasium tests.
20.
Well, he's done well to get 20. These are still high scores. Try this yourself on the banisters and you'll see what I mean. 22, I think, Jochen Mass. Whistle goes, 1 minute up. Pretty exhausting, still very hot. Greg Pruitt scored 20. Grant Batty 26, Graham Eadie 30. And the next we see the defending world superstars champion, Bob Seagren, who freely admits that this man's score of 46 has absolutely shattered him.
2, 3, 4,
Taking his shoes off for lighter weight.
7,
They're very good chins.
9, 10, 11, 12, 13,
For the first time, a worried look
15,
on this extraordinary Canadian's face.
18.
Yes, this crowd are going to try and lift him if they can. He's got a lot of support here.
24, 25,
But his morale has certainly been shattered on this first day.
30, 31.
Oh, he's going well. Already better than last year. The Olympic pole vault champion. They're willing him on. Tremendous stuff. What a competition. The whistle defeats him, if not exhaustion. His squat thrust to come. There'll be about a 20-minute rest for him. But 43 is his score. Brian Budd wins that part of the competition, though, with 46. Truly remarkable scores from those chins. And now the squat thrusts. The number of squat thrusts in 1 minute, and that score is added to the number of chins. Jean-Paul Coche lines up with Brian Budd. Jean-Paul Coche, we saw do 77 in the European final.
5, 6,
And so far, this man, Brian Budd, there's Kosh on the left, Brian Budd on his right, has shown absolutely no weaknesses. He can swim, he can sprint, he can row, and he's pumping away at a very fast rate indeed, and they're very good squat thrusts. Driving together, knees up to the line of the elbows, being checked by the individual judges at the side, and they're really pumping away. And is Kosh slowing down finally? Yes, Budd is going the quicker. And there's going to be a phenomenal score for him here. Up to 80. 81, I think. And that surely can't be beaten even by Siegrun. And Kosh drove him hard all the way. There's no slowing this man down. He really is a remarkable soccer player. So, Brian Budd's total is now 127.
Up, up. 1, 2, 3.
Siegrun.
Up, 4. Hit it.
And not as fast on the left
7, 8, 9,
with Graham Eady.
11, 12, 13.
There's Graham Eady already struggling.
17, 18, 19.
And the two are slightly out of sync. And you can hear the judges calling their score, and that's not as fast. There's no way that Siegrun is going to make it up on Brian Budd. Tough and dedicated athlete that he is. And freely admits he's been training hard for this World Superstars title, which he so badly wanted to retain.
37, 38,
But he's met a superhuman here.
41, 42, 43, 44, up, 41, 45, 46, 47,
Time is running out in these squat thrusts. Siegrun facing that total of 127, and his legs have gone to jelly, and he'll be given 63, I think. His overall total 106, as against Budd's total of 127, but still Bob Siegrun finishes in second place. The 10 points, and what a clear 10 points they were to Brian Budd. Jean-Paul Kosh in third with 4, Joachim Mass 2.
Hey, Brian, that was a pretty tough performance. It's quite the most remarkable gymnasium test we've seen in Superstars.
Well, to be very honest with you, I think I amazed myself too. You know, I really hadn't done too much of it before, but adrenaline is a funny thing. You know, you get it going, and being first off is never easy. And Jean-Paul beside me was going at 90 miles an hour, so I just tried to stay with him, and I was a little bit luckier and maybe just had a little more at the end.
And although it was agony, the $3,000 made it all worthwhile.
Well, yeah, it's always. I don't really think you think about the money when you're in there. There's a lot of pride and everything, but when you're finished, you can sit back, you know, and have a cool one and think about it at that point. You know?
Anyway, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And look at the lead he's got overall now. Would you believe this is a man who broke his leg last October? The rest there in a bunch, fielding 10 points from the 2 events he's done, and he's in 6th place. And Fielding was in the next event, which was the tennis out here in the sun of the Bahamas. He beat Ben Davidson to start with, but then went out to Dwight Stones. And eventually on court, it was Kreuzer playing Siegrun in the final. Siegrun was well up at one stage. Kreuzer had a great fight back and took the set to 6-all, which means now a tie-break to separate these two. Siegrun gambling a bit because he didn't take part in this last year and is hoping that he can pull something up. Kreuzer to serve on the tie-break, 12-point tie-break. And a good shot by Kreuzer.
1 love,
And in fact, he played quite a few more of those, and Siegrun got only 1 point to get to a state where Siegrun was almost out of it, 1-6, and Kreuzer serving for the match. Needs just this point to win on the tie-break system. And it's out, and Kreuzer has it. Thies Kreuzer beating Bob Siegrun, who was gambling in the tennis, and there's a little secret as to why he won, because he's got a very special coach, Kreuzer, here with him. He is in fact the captain of the Dutch Davis Cup squad, Ed van Breukelen, who's there just in the yellow shirt, and has coached Kreuzer through to this. Ed van Breukelen taking Thies Kreuzer to a 10-point win in the tennis. Segrin gets that second place, and it's a good gamble because 7 points from an event you didn't take part in last year isn't bad at all. Stones and Pruitt, 4th and 5th. Thies, that was a little tough, I think.
It was very tough, much tougher than in the 2 other matches, but, well, Bob Segrin played a good game, and he let not play me my own game. And instead of giving my own shots, I started to play very slowly and high balls. Well, and that was in his advantage. And in the beginning, I lost a lot of games, but finally, after all, I could win the game.
And so the position at halfway after 5 events, Brian Budd of Canada leads with 27 points. Bob Segrin has now moved up into 2nd place. Thies Kreuzer into 3rd. Keith Fielding down in 7th. But what could 10 points do from this sprint event? The 100 yards final. Greg Pruitt versus Keith Fielding. Hard tar-macadam track. It is very hot indeed. Only 4th in his heat, but he qualifies by time.
In lane number 2, from the United States, Greg Pruitt.
And everybody thinks he was holding something back.
In lane number 3, from Great Britain, the fastest qualifier, Keith Fielding.
A marvellous event to win for Keith Fielding if he could.
In lane number 4, from the United States, Bob Segrin.
Stealing points now from every event.
And in lane number 5, from Canada, Brian Budd.
An extraordinary all-rounder. And the 2 key men drawn together. Greg Pruitt in lane 2. Keith Fielding in lane 3. Starting's been just a little bit slack. They're not quite sure. Oh, and it was the Canadian who got away. Brian Budd quickly. And then Greg Pruitt. And Greg Pruitt's got half a yard on Fielding. Can Fielding make it up? He's on his shoulder now. They're going to the line together. They're absolutely locked. Now, who got that? The only thing for certain is that Brian Budd got 3rd place and Keith Fielding thinks that he's won it. And Greg Pruitt got away from him at the beginning and he had to struggle all the way. Pruitt still thinks he's won it, but Fielding thinks that he's got it. It's now up to the judges. What a race. Look at the Canadian, he gets a flyer far left. And then Pruitt's already half a yard up on Keith Fielding. Fielding has to struggle. He loses a little bit of form, but he really is going after Pruitt with determination, and he really has closed on him now. They are locked together. There's still 10 yards to go, and Keith Fielding dips, and I think he got it. I think Keith Fielding just got it on the dip, but did he dip early enough? There are lots of head shaking. Everybody has their own opinion. It's whether Keith Fielding gets the dip, and he's had lots of experience in this, whether he's the line of his torso reaches the line of the tape first, and I think that he just about got there. A magnificent race.
But Fielding got it. Came across together. No, they looked as if they did, but Fielding's chest, he put his chest to the rope as he went over.
The officials are arguing, but I think the verdict has gone to Pruitt.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are the results and times from the 100-yard dash. The winner, Greg Pruitt, his time. 9.96 seconds. 9.96.
9.96.
Time for Keith Fielding, 9.97. Keith Fielding second, 9.97.
I know you must be disappointed, but impossible, you know, for us to, separate you. But you thought you had him on the dip?
I'm sure I had.
Yeah?
Well, I thought, I was sure, but obviously they know better.
Oh, well. You had him. See if the victor takes it.
Yeah.
Anyway, tough.
Was,
7 good points, sir.
Yeah, it's true. Oh, damn and blast him, man.
You had him where we sat. You really, I mean, you were dead even.
Yeah.
It looked like it, and then I was sure you had him at the end.
I thought I dipped through.
But he really got away very quickly again, Keith. He was struggling to make up, maybe a yard.
That's right.
Yeah. And,
I did it, and I thought...
That's right.
He was slowing.
Really aggressive.
100 metres at a go.
Hey, great race, sir.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
Well done.
However, we'll have a rest.
A disappointing result for Keith Fielding, and 1/100th of a second, robbing him of $900. A good win, though, for Greg Pruitt.
And although it's Brian Budd still at the top, look at Fielding. Those 7 points pulled him up into 3rd place behind Bobby Segrin, and he's now definitely one of the big 3 in this World Superstar title race.
return from the trackside to the hotel side. In fact, the hotel just on the left and the swimming pool here. And you can see we're all prepared for weightlifting. There are 7 competitors, including that giant from American football, Dave Casper, who won the event last year. However, there's an even bigger American footballer called Ben Davidson that's in it. And let me remind you that the rules are slightly different from the European event. It's not a clean and jerk from the ground. The bar is taken from the stands and either pressed or jerked overhead. And providing the superstar locks his elbows and holds the bar overhead for 2 seconds, that will satisfy the judges.
The weightlifter's using those lifting belts to support the lower spine. 250 pounds. Last year in the Superstars final, it was won by Dave Casper with 270 pounds, with a little Shell Isaacson finishing second on 265. So they're getting pretty close to that sort of poundage. Greg Pruitt. Yes, he initiates the lift with the legs and keeps the bar moving. He really is a powerful, stocky little man. Dave Casper, fisherman, and now weightlifter, defending his weightlifting title, and he does make that look easy. And he's limping away because as soon as this competition's over, he has to go and have an operation on that knee. Jean-Paul Coche coming back in. 250 pounds. About 20 pounds below his maximum. Oh, and he's not going to make it. And no wonder he's angry. He'll finish in 4th place, but he must have hoped for better than that. Jean-Paul Coche goes out at 250 pounds. 2 points and $600, the richer. Ben Davidson now left the competition. The bar has gone up to 290 pounds, which is pretty close to 100 pounds over Greg Pruitt's own body weight. So it's phenomenal lifting. He'd have beaten Shell Isaacson. Just 2 men left in the competition. Pruitt and Dave Casper. Beautiful. And Pruitt makes it. And really no signs of strain at all, and David Casper having to lift much more than he lifted last year. Running back. And David Casper makes that. 290 pounds, but the bar can now be raised at 5 pound intervals. Knock a mass there. Dwight Stone's out. Dwight Stone's lifted well. 295 pounds, and this is certainly 100 pounds over Greg Pruitt's body weight. For those with an interest in American football, Greg Pruitt playing for Cleveland Browns, the same club as the great athlete and sprinter Jim Brown, who was very much like Greg Pruitt. A 9.500-yard man, a 50-foot shot putter, and now in the annals of their history books. And here's Greg Pruitt in Superstars history books. That's 295 pounds at 14 stone. And the pressure on David Casper. That's a lot more than he's ever lifted. Great folk heroes, these. And is he going to lose his title? I think so. He loses to Greg Pruitt. A fine weightlifting competition, though. David Casper finishing second, and Greg Pruitt, the winner. 295 pounds. 10 points to Greg Pruitt. David Casper gets 7, Ben Davidson 4, Jean-Paul Coche 2, Graham Eadie 1.
And the Americans looking very good here after 7 events. The champion defending his title, Bob Seagren, now lying 3rd there, and he's got 3 events left to do.
Oh, Bob Seagren, the winner of the half-mile event last year, lines up now with Brian Budd, Keith Fielding, Grant Batty, Wayne Grimditch and Thies Kreuzer. And it's over 90 degrees in the sun. A lot of support, very hard track, and it's a hot track too. And look who's gone into the lead. Brian Budd, the Canadian soccer player. Keith Fielding watching him very closely and trying to stay with him. Bob Seagren settled into a comfortable, more relaxed pace in third place, not wanting to blow it in this heat. And Keith Fielding is chasing after Brian Budd, who's gone off astonishingly quickly. This really is very quick indeed. Bob Seagren looking around him to see how things are, but Budd looks comfortable. Comfortable at 300 meters, and now there's a gap opening up, and Keith Fielding realizes that that is a suicidal pace. He knows that he can't live with it, and Bob Seagren's closed the gap on him. And look at this fella. He looks strong as, and I think that Keith Fielding's looking pretty grim. I must say his head was going just a little bit. The tail enders are suffering. This man going through at an astonishing 58 seconds. Brian Budd setting off a blistering pace, 58 seconds. And suddenly Keith Fielding's gone. He's gone, and Bob Seagren's gone into second, and Keith Fielding looks in all sorts of trouble. He really is tottering rather badly on the track, and nothing seems to stop Brian Budd, and there's no way they'll close this gap on him. Another remarkable performance from the man who plays for the Caribous of Colorado, formerly of the Vancouver Whitecaps in the Canadian national soccer team. But what a superstar, Brian Budd. And Keith Fielding's dropped. He's dropped on the far side of the track. Bob Seagren looks behind him, and Bob Seagren going to be happy to settle for second, but Keith Fielding has absolutely collapsed on the track. Brian Budd relaxing now. He knows the race is his. It's an extraordinary race. He's going to break 2 minutes. In this heat, that is a remarkable run. 1:58, and Bob Seagren will get second. Poor Keith Fielding's collapsed out of the race. Bob Seagren comfortably in second. And Grant Batty will be third, Wayne Grimditch fourth, Thies Kreuzer fifth.
And Grant Batty also suffering from the heat, very fair-skinned. Incidentally, 1, 2, and 3 overall now. It's Budd, Seagren, and Pruitt, and to the bike race. The final then, lined up. And it'll be Wayne Grimditch, Brian Budd, Ben Davidson, Jochen Mass. 4 laps, 1 mile. Grimditch in the blue shorts. Budd in the striped shirt. Davidson in the red at the back. And Budd is gone. Brian Budd is gone away. And Grimditch is behind him. The other two are dropped, and have they gone too soon? There's still a lap to go after this. Brian Budd tucking in the head. Grimditch tucked in nicely behind him, and he's in the better position. And there's a shout, bell lap, because they don't want a repeat of last year's World Superstars when they had that famous 5-lap, 4-lap event. The bell should come now, and they've got it out this time, and Brian Budd in front of Wayne Grimditch, and Grimditch almost comes up behind him and waits quite sensibly. Now that was clever of Budd. He tried to pull Grimditch up, but he was having none of it. He said, you went out and made the break, you stay there. And he's tucked in nicely behind on the back straight. It's between these two. The rest are nowhere. Mass and Davidson way off the back, and Grimditch coming very fast indeed. This is beautiful bike riding, and Grimditch has got him. Wayne Grimditch, who won this event in US Superstars to take him to his US Superstar Championship, has opened up a gap that Brian Budd cannot possibly close, and in it comes Wayne Grimditch, his first success in this World Championship, and wins the bike race, and what a magnificent one it was. Budd there drops his hands. He has to settle for second place, and it's Ben Davidson who comes in looking over his shoulder to see that he has beaten Jochen Mass, and Jochen Mass obviously not fit in this World Championship, but it's Grimditch 10 points, Brian Budd 7, Davidson 4, Mass 2, and 1 point, $300 for Fielding, who had to pull out of that final. Wayne, that was quite a race.
Yeah, thank you. I felt good, and my bicycle is my strongest event.
Yeah, your bicycle form in US Superstars has always been good, hasn't it?
Yeah, and some of the other events I haven't been doing quite well in, so haven't been doing very well in. So I was really pretty tough. I want to be really tough on the bike.
Were you surprised that Brian Budd broke away quite as quickly?
I anticipated that I thought he might, because he broke away very quickly in the half mile, and I thought, well, let him take it, and I'll just kind of follow the leader. And that's the best way to do it.
No doubt about the leader, and he's in an unassailable position. Brian Budd of Canada, 4 Americans fill the next 4 places, ahead of Keith Fielding, who's still in 6th place with 18 points.
to the big wall, this impressive-looking obstacle course where fortunes can still be won and lost. Except for first place, all of them down to 6 can change, so on this event rests a total of $42,000. And a smile to the face of Bob Seagren, who, of course, in this 12 months ago in Georgia, was second, the placing he needed to win the first ever world title. He's drawn here in the 2-man heat against Dwight Stones, who won this event in the US Superstars Championship. 2-man heats. The fastest 2 overall go again for the final. And they're away, and first the wall. 12 feet high, and Stones jumps well, but it's Seagren over first. Drops down into the tube, 12 foot long, 4 feet in diameter. Pushes the tackle dummy, a distance of 27 feet, through the tires, and Seagren well up on Stones at the moment. 12 foot of water lies ahead of them, and Seagren pouring away and jumps well. 4'6" the high jump, rolls over the top. 2 hurdles to go, over, and Seagren through. My goodness, that's quick. Stones is second. Seagren's time, 23.24, and that's .08 outside the all-time record held by Lynn Swan of America. Pruitt now versus Fielding, the last event. At the wall, 12 feet. A little bit of a scramble. Pruitt just over first. Hits that tackle dummy so hard. My goodness, he nearly picked it off the ground. Through the tires, and Fielding picks up well on the footwork, but Pruitt streaks ahead there. Over the water. Good roll over the bar, and Pruitt's going to get it. Pruitt's going to get it. And what's his time? 24.94. Fielding 26.3, and the 4th fastest there in that event. And my goodness, he's done so well in this. An amazing performance after all that's happened to him. Still our most successful superstar ever. As he walks away, the judges consult the times and produce this final, a repeat of the first heat. The 2 fastest men having to go again. Seagren versus Stones. Seagren, remember, .08 outside the all-time record for the obstacle course. And Seagren again over the wall as he was. He gets over that like it's a little hurdle. His speciality, oh, I was about to say his speciality, and a disaster on the tires. He's had to go back. Stones will go ahead. And Seagren knows he's lost it completely, as Stones, in fact, hurdled that high jump. Oh, Seagren has decided if he can't finish a winner, at least he'll get the attention. Bob Seagren clowning his way through that when he saw it all disappear from him. Almost losing that moment when Dwight Stones hurdled the 4'6" high jump to give him his first win. So there's the official announcement. Dwight Stones taking the last event in the 1978 World Superstar competition here in the Bahamas. Seagren signing the autographs, takes second place. So it's 10 for Stones, 7 for Seagren, 4, 2, and 1. Pruitt, Fielding, and Koch. And so overall, the final position, Seagren has lost his title and is runner-up to this amazing Canadian Brian Budd, who wins $39,400. Pruitt is third. Fielding 5th, his purse $9,000. But there you can see he's the best of the Europeans by a long, long way.
Well, Brian Budd, footballer, I should say soccer player, now superstar. How does it all feel?
Well, that's a funny term, superstar. I mean, I won't even let my friends call me that, really, you know, because they give me a hard time. But it feels good, and right from the start, I said I was going to enjoy it. And you can say it's easier to say now, but if you saw me the first day I was here, it was the same as it is now, just not quite as tired, that's all. I've really enjoyed every minute of it.
Your performances, with every respect, have amazed everybody. I mean, did you realize yourself you were that fit?
No, well, I really don't know. I mean, I amaze myself at times, I guess. You know, I'm not really a trainer as such. I'm more of a player in that respect, no matter what I do. And I come through with the performance, of course, except the obstacle course, which I made a shambles of.
It didn't matter too much.
Other than that, whether it's this or whether it's with a night out in the boys, I like to think I can perform as well as any of them, you know.
Well, thinking ahead, of course, to Scotland in the World Cup, I think Scotland might claim you because you played some time up there, didn't you?
Yeah, I played. I didn't do too well, but I played in the first division and mostly in the second team. But yeah, I've got some great friends. A fellow named George McLean and Bullocks McGee, and a fellow named Billy Stevenson, who played with Liverpool and that, and Stephen Hetzke. 4 fellows that I must say that have been tremendous to me, and I stay with them when I go over there, and, well, I guess I'll have a few more friends now, won't I?
Well, they'll almost certainly claim you as a Scot now you're the superstar.
All right, thanks very much.
What are you going to do with nearly $40,000?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go visit some of these fellas that I've just gone through with, and I'll probably end up over your way and visit some of them, and maybe I'll even get a chance to drink a few of those good English pints. You know that?
Brian Budd, nice to have had you.
All right, thanks very much.
But tradition says he has to make do with the champagne first. And although he's sharing it there, he'll love every drop of it, I'm sure, as he's loved every moment of this competition and impressed everyone with one of the most outstanding all-round displays the Superstars has ever seen. The very likable and the quite remarkable Brian Budd. Well, that ends another Superstar season for us, and these 2 days here have produced not just the second world champion, but some rather memorable moments for all of us who've been here with the Superstars in the Bahamas.